Welcome to Young Buck Dynasty. Today we're going to be talking about how you yourselves can dominate your Dynasty leagues. We're going to be talking about team archetypes, certain down tiering options, targets as well, and even those little battles that if you win can see you winning your leagues come the end of the season. So if you do end up enjoying today's video, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Subscribing is 100% free, so want to hit that sub button. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into today's video. So like I just mentioned, we're going to be going over team archetypes. In my opinion, there are 3 different archetypes for Dynasty teams. They're champions, contenders, as well as rebuilders. Now, with each, there are kind of 2 subcategories to each one because there are obviously different directions that people go when building teams, especially with these 3 archetypes. Now, when it comes to constructing teams and building based upon these archetypes, there is one thing that basically everyone abides by, and it's what I like to call the spine. You want a strong core or spine to your side, and that is basically your quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. Those are 4 of the more important positions when playing Dynasty, and a lot of leagues are now going strictly focused upon offense. AKA not all leagues anymore include kickers and defense and special teams, or even those leagues that do individual defensive players, AKA IDP. So when constructing your roster based upon these 3 archetypes, you try and build a strong spine. So the first archetype we are going to go over is the champions. There are 2 sub archetypes as well. The first one being elite value. That is the best of the best throughout your starters and a pretty good to pretty solid bench as well. So you're very comfortable with what you have. And as we can see right here, you have a top 5 QB, a top 5 running back, top 10 wide receiver because there are plenty of wide receivers that are very, very good, and a top 5 tight end. That is basically what makes up an elite value core. Now, the players that you see there are Patrick Mahomes, Christian McCaffrey, AJ Brown, as well as Travis Kelce. Yes, not all of them are super young, but for someone that is trying to win now, you're in that win now mode, those are basically the perfect players to have as part of your spine. As you see, the spine health is superb. Those are some of the top fantasy players in recent years. And when constructing this type of roster, you basically don't need to do anything. So where you see that tips area right there, you need to stay the course. You don't need to make any drastic decisions. Your team is good enough to win the league outright. Yeah, you may have a competitor or 2, but if you can maybe make very little changes and still be very strong, definitely do it, especially if it is acquiring picks. If you're able to acquire picks and not lose a massive piece, maybe go ahead and try and do that so that you make sure that you are continuing having that elite value going forward. Now, the next archetype for champions is Risk Biscuit. Risk it for the biscuit. It is elite value all throughout your side for the most part within your starters that are either in good, sometimes even sketchy situations, hence risk it for the biscuit, but you have a mediocre option of bench players. Just like elite value, you still have that top 5 QB. You then have a top 10 running back, top 5 wide receiver, or a top 7 tight end. Majority of the time when you are winning leagues, or whoever ends up winning your league, they usually have a top 5 tight end. However, it can stretch to a top 7 sometimes as well. And when looking at the players that are a part of this spine right here, you've got Josh Allen, Devon Achane, Amon-Ra St. Brown, as well as Dalton Kincaid. You have those players that are in the good situations as well as the sketchy situations, because no one knows what type of year the Buffalo Bills are going to have, but you know that Josh Allen is basically going to continue being Josh Allen. Dalton Kincaid is going to now have to be one of his main go-tos. You have Devon Achane, hopefully not in as sketchy of a situation to where he can be in a good situation and is going to be that bell cow running back that they desperately need down there in Miami, being that they have plenty of options. You just don't know who it's going to be. Hopefully it is Devon Achane. And then you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is one of the safest players to have in all of fantasy football. Now, as we can see, this spine health, it's gone from superb to elite. Still very, very good. But tips wise, I do suggest going out and getting better depth if this is how your roster is made up. If you see yourself, okay, my team kind of identifies with this Risk Biscuit type of approach, you definitely want to go out there, get some better depth. Trade into good situations. So if you're not too hip on the Buffalo Bills situation or the running back situation in Miami, maybe look to go in a different direction. Just make sure you are not paying too much to get out of those situations. Now we're moving on to the contenders, which these are kind of my favorite ones. It's that middle of the road, you kind of feel safe a majority of the time. And balanced is kind of what I shoot for sometimes with some of my teams. A balanced squad with massive upside for multiple seasons. So you kind of get the best of all the worlds that we'll be talking about here today, because you've got the vets, you got the youth, you got picks on your side, you got elite value on your side in other areas as well. And as we can see with the spine, top 10 QB, top 10 running back, top 10 wide receiver, and a top 5 tight end. Can't be more balanced than that. The spine health is strong. Now, the way that it can get to elite, like our previous one that we went over, is going for a top 5 stud. Whether you are going for a top 5 QB, top 5 running back, top 5 wide receiver, you definitely want to try for a top 5 player to help you kind of make sure that you are comfortable in a situation to where, okay, if I miss out on the playoffs, I don't want to have to go into rebuild mode. If I have this top 5 guy, I have options either to offload them, get more pieces to where I definitely make the playoffs next season, or that top 5 stud is what helps you make the playoffs and go on a championship run. And with those areas that you can upgrade from a top 10 to a top 5, those are basically going to be the top 10 QB, top 10 running back, top 10 wide receiver. You see Brock Purdy, Jonathan Taylor, and Puka Nacua. All incredible options. However, out of all of them, you probably would want to upgrade over Brock Purdy because Jonathan Taylor, massive upside. Puka Nacua, massive upside. So does Brock Purdy, but you can definitely find a way to upgrade from him. Now that top 5 tight end down there, that's Mr. George Kittle. He averages a top 5 finish every year. So if you do not have George Kittle, you find yourself in this situation, you want to upgrade your tight end, say from like a Cole Kmet or Jake Ferguson, definitely try and find a way to get George Kittle. Now back to the tips real quick before we move on. You're definitely going to want to win the waiver wire pickups. That is what can make or break your season. Last year, pickups such as Puka Nacua or even Kyren Williams, Devon Achane, who we have talked about already, they became league winners. So you definitely got to make sure that you're keeping an eye out on the waiver wire to make sure that when it does come time for the waiver pickups, you're the one winning those. And lastly, tip-wise, you want to acquire picks. You definitely want to make sure that you continue to build youth-wise because it can help you go from a balanced contender to an elite value champion. Now, the secondary archetype and contenders is Young Guns, a young squad on the brink of becoming a juggernaut and is this close to being that team within your league. You have young top 10 QBs, top 10 running back, top 15 wide receiver, top 7 tight end. The players that you see there for QB, it's Mr. Jordan Love, fantastic year last year. For running back, Mr. Breece Hall, another fantastic year. Then at wide receiver, Mr. Nico Collins. He's in a crowded wide receiver room, but look for him to have another fantastic year once again. And then tight end wise, it's Mr. Sam Laporta, which we will be talking about later on in the video as well. The spine health for this type of archetype is strong and can get to superb or elite pretty quickly, especially if you trust the process. Do not go offloading some of your big time players because you want to continue building with these young guns. You once again want to win the waivers because if you can find the next Puka Nacua, the next Kyren Williams or Devon Achane, you're going to be sitting pretty big time. You're also going to want to acquire picks, but don't give up too much or give up more than you would like. And now we move on to the rebuilders. Now both of these are on two complete opposite ends of the spectrum. The first one is Fire Sale, as we can see here. It's an old squad with some value left in it, but you need to offload that value while you still have the chance because you don't need someone having a career-ending injury and you miss out on all that value that you could have possibly gotten for them right now. Now, majority of the time when you see a Fire Sale type archetype, it is a top 10 veteran QB, top 10 veteran running back, top 15 veteran wide receiver, or a top 7 veteran tight end. Now, the players that you see there on the left side, it's Mr. Aaron Rodgers, Derrick Henry, Mike Evans, and Mark Andrews. All of them have been very, very good fantasy producers throughout their careers. However, they're all hitting 30 or over now. Now, one player that you would definitely need to offload in this scenario is Mr. Aaron Rodgers, and get what you can for him and just pray that it is enough to help build for the future. Now, players like Derrick Henry, Mike Evans, and Mark Andrews all still have more time on their side than Aaron Rodgers does. However, Mark Andrews has a history of injuries, so that is definitely another reason to want to offload a player like that. And when it comes to offloading players like a Derrick Henry or Mike Evans, and you aren't in the situation to make the playoffs, you're going to offload those players to playoff teams because they will be willing to pay in picks to be able to get them. Now, spine health wise, this is weak because you desperately need to go in a different direction. Whether you want to call it a rebuild or a retool is completely up to you. But you are going to want to trade for youth, win the waivers, acquire picks, and rework your spine to acquire a brand new one. So make sure that you're identifying targets, which we have targets towards the end of this video that you can definitely include in those. And then the last archetype we're talking about is youth to gold. A bad squad, but has major youth upside within the squad because of you doing bad enough to basically build this squad through picks. And where you see the top 10s, top 20, top 7 right there, this is based upon potential, unlike the other ones. You want to make sure that you have a potential top 10 QB as well as running back, top 20 wide receiver, and top 7 tight end within your squad when you were starting a youth to gold type rebuild. So at QB, we see Caleb Williams, running back, it's James Cook, wide receiver, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and at tight end, it's Mr. Trey McBride. All of these players are vital key pieces to rebuilding a squad. Definitely Caleb Williams and definitely a player like Trey McBride as well, because they have a boatload of value with them already. Now, the spine health this time is recovering. It's not as bad as with the fire sale because you are younger in this scenario. You're wanting to build young and take risks. So you're going to want to trust the process once again, win those waiver pickups because that can help you get to where you want to be quicker. Also, acquire those picks. So if you are wanting to offload, say you have someone like a Mike Evans in this scenario, offload them for picks, especially at the trade deadline to teams that are most likely going to be in the playoffs. And then also take chances on rookies, which we will be talking about some of them shortly, which one of them will be Mr. Tyrone Tracy Jr. of the New York Giants. Definitely look for those players that might not have a starting gig right now, but definitely have a boatload of potential to come the end of the season. Now, before we get on to the next subject, I want to go over a few small things real quick that are small battles, but if you win them, can help you win your league come the end of the season. First off is free agents and waivers. Like I've been saying, you want to make sure that you're winning those and getting the best value from those waiver pickups. So definitely make sure you are doing your research. Research is very important within fantasy football. If you have the time to do it, definitely make sure that you are, because that might help you have an edge over all your other league mates. Also, when making trades, make sure you're not giving up too much to upgrade. If you are wanting to upgrade to help you get that extra oomph before the playoffs start, definitely make sure you're not giving up too much, especially if it is to upgrade your team player-wise to where, okay, I want a top 5 stud. This guy wants 2 wide receiver 2s and a pick. I guess I'm going to do it. Do not do moves like that because you will kick yourself in the butt come the end of the season if you do. And also, do not let your feelings of your favorite players and or teams dictate what is on your Dynasty squad, because being a homer can definitely hurt you in the long run. Now, part of dominating in Dynasty is making sure that you are winning your trades, because winning trades helps you win championships in the long run. Now, one key thing within trading is down tiering. When you have certain elite players and you need to down tier for the betterment of your team to help fill in other areas or even to build for the future, you're definitely going to make sure that you want to be getting the best value that you possibly can in return. So really quickly, I'm going to run through 4 players here that basically these are some packages that you might be seeing be offered your way if you're offering up these types of players. So down tier idea number 1 is Mr. Patrick Mahomes. Yes, he might be the number 1 Dynasty QB, but if you can offload him to help build for the future or to fill in other areas that you might need, definitely feel free to move off from him and don't feel guilty in doing so. An offer that you might see is a first rounder, most likely a mid, sometimes early first, Bryce Young, and a wide receiver 2. Wide receiver 2s could be people like Brandon Ayuk or even Michael Pittman Jr. So pretty high quality wide receivers right there. Idea number 2, Mr. Christian McCaffrey. Once again, a big time name, the number 1 Dynasty PPR running back from last year. He's an absolute machine, but if you can offload him to help build for the future or get pieces that you need, definitely do so and don't feel guilty. An offer that you might be receiving is a first round pick, a third round pick, as well as a running back like James Cook. So right there, not only are you getting a youthful running back, you're also getting a first rounder and a third rounder. Now it all depends on who you are getting this from. If you're getting this from a playoff contender, you might want to upgrade that third rounder to a second rounder, and I definitely think you would be able to pull that off pretty easily. Our next down tier idea is Mr. CeeDee Lamb. He's a top 5 Dynasty wide receiver, still does have age on his side. He is on the Dallas Cowboys, and they are having a very interesting situation with contracts right now. So one of the safe things might be is to down tier from him, because you don't know what type of season he's going to have with a bunch of stuff looming over the rest of the team. So an offer that you might be receiving or that you might be able to get is Drake London, a wide receiver 2 or 3, and a pick. If you're going for Drake London and a wide receiver 2, you probably won't be able to get that high of a pick. If you're going for Drake London and wide receiver 3, you probably can get a second rounder with that. And the last down tier idea here at number 4 is one that a lot of people have been suggesting so far this summer, right before we get into the season. Mr. Sam Laporta of the Detroit Lions, top 5 Dynasty tight end, huge breakout rookie year, but a lot of people are down tiering from him. So what are some offers that you could potentially be receiving or go to try and look for? TJ Hawkinson, yes, I know he's injured, but he's still TJ Hawkinson, and when he comes back, it'll take a little bit of time to get the rust off of him, but he should be pretty darn good still. And a wide receiver 2 or 3. If you're going with the wide receiver 3 there with TJ Hawkinson, you might be able to throw in a pick as well to come your way. Or you go for a first and second and a low end tight end. Now, what is a low end tight end? Well, compared to Mr. Sam Laporta, it would probably be like a Pat Freiermuth or Cole Kmet. Not incredible, but if you can get a first, second, and Cole Kmet with the upside that is currently in that Bears offense, that would be a major win in my book. Now, quickly before we go, here are some players to target for all 3 archetypes, as well as a free agent / waiver wire pickup for you guys. For the Champions archetype, you will want to be adding a player at running back like Mr. Jonathan Taylor, who's finally going to hopefully have a full season with the Indianapolis Colts, and he is a beast, so definitely make sure to bring in a young, youthful running back like him. Or you can go the wide receiver route, bring in Mr. Deontay Johnson. He is now the wide receiver 1 in Carolina under Mr. Dave Canales, who's looking to use him a boatload in this new look offense, and hopefully him and Bryce Young have a pretty good connection this season. For those of you in the Contenders archetype, wide receiver I suggest is Mr. Khalil Shakir. It is kind of a toss-up on who is going to be getting the ball a majority of the time up in Buffalo. However, Khalil Shakir got the ball a decent amount last year, and he is one of very few familiar faces for Josh Allen in that wide receiver room. So Mr. Khalil Shakir should be getting a ton of the ball, and I'm pretty sure from what I've been hearing, he's going to be playing in the slot a majority of the time, and we all know Josh Allen loves his slot wide receivers. Now, I also included a tight end, as you guys can see here, Mr. George Kittle. He is a league winner. He's helped me win leagues, and I almost put him in the champions section of this portion. Now, George Kittle, like I hit on earlier, he usually, on average, finishes in top 5 for tight ends. Since Brock Purdy has become his QB, he averages 14.3 points. 14.3 points per game since Brock Purdy's been his QB. Absolutely incredible. Now we've got you rebuilders. Some targets that you should go after. Running back for the New York Giants, Tyrone Tracy Jr. A lot of people would believe, and I am one of those believers, that he is going to be the starting running back by the end of the season. So you might have the number 1 of the New York Giants at running back. Yes, it's not a great offense right now, but it's going to get there eventually, and Tyrone Tracy is definitely one to take a flyer on. And then we have a young wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Mr. Jalen McMillan, who has been confirmed to be the wide receiver number 3 in that offense. And with Chris Godwin going back to the slot, you should see a lot of usage out of Mr. McMillan out wide especially. And lastly, we've got free agent and waiver pickups. We have Mr. Jordan Whittington of the LA Rams. This young wide receiver put on a show during the preseason, leading the team in receiving yards. Yes, the Rams were not playing a majority of their starters, but Jordan Whittington could definitely have that wide receiver number 3 role on lock by mid-season, if not earlier, because of how they were using him preseason. Also, he offers a lot of what Puka Nacua offers as well. So why not take a flyer on potentially the next Puka Nacua with the LA Rams? So there we have it. I hope this helped you guys out a little bit on how you can go forward and dominate in your dynasty leagues. Let me know down below in the comments which archetype you believe your team is and which players you are looking to build your spine with your squads around. Now, if you did happen to enjoy today's video, please feel free, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Subscribing is 100% free, so why not hit that sub button? And until next time, everyone, have a good one. Bye-bye.